Hey everybody, welcome to the first edition of our little quarantine classic recaps. And I got no stranger, Graeme, joining with me today on this episode. Graeme, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. Everything considered. I hope everyone's well that's listening and watching this, and all the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody stay safe and be smart. We can all do our part and hopefully ride this out and get things back to normal. But to offer you guys a little fun distraction, we're going to recap a match from May 8th, 2005 that took place in the San Siro with our beloved Juventus facing Milan. Fun stuff in the build-up to this one. It seems like the drama has always been in Serie A. So let's talk a bit about the build-up to this one. The teams were both, Milan and Juve, locked in the title race for quite some time. Figured, I think the commentary you mentioned said about 10 weeks, but it felt like a lot longer even when I look back. It was pretty much them throughout this season. But there was a couple interesting moments. Juve would be without Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And do you want to elaborate on the other event as well as what happened with Zlatan? Because it was video footage of some moments that took place during...
Fabio Cannavaro from his Parma days.
Yeah. So, yeah, Cannavaro had a video leaked of him... getting what was it exactly? The substance?
It was some form of creatine, so it was a legal substance. It's not like it was doping or anything like that. I think it was. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but from what I read, it was neoton, something like that.
Neoton, something like that. Yeah. It was legal, so I'm not really sure what all the fuss was about, unless they didn't know that was the substance at the time. But,
I mean, this was all happening, I think, during the time where Juventus were getting pulled up for the whole potential doping thing against Ajax. So that was going on in the background. And then this 6-year-old footage appears, like apparently it was stolen, conveniently in the build-up to the Milan game when both teams need to win it. And Ibrahimovic is already suspended. That was a 3-game suspension, obviously included the Milan game. So all these things were piling up, and it's Juventus apparently control everything in Italian football. Well, guess what? No, they don't.
Yeah, exactly. So no Zlatan Ibrahimovic. This video leaked with Cannavaro had no effect on him playing or anything like that. But yeah, it's just interesting. Always drama unfolding, and historically with Serie A. So. Fun little stuff there, finding out about this match and just going through it all over again. But let's get into the lineups on this one. We'll start off with Milan. So they had Dida in goal, Cafu with Nesta and Stam and Maldini. That's a pretty impressive backline there. Just incredible Serie A back then. And then you get to their midfield and you've got Pirlo and Seedorf with Kaká behind your forwards. Pretty awesome. And then Shevchenko up front with the surprise of Thomason being played up front there. But that's a pretty stacked lineup. The only thing for me was, why is Thomason up there in a match? When you see the talent they've got on the bench, and obviously their best probably being Inzaghi, not being in this one. But your thoughts on Milan's lineup?
I mean, like you were just saying there, it was a pretty stacked lineup. But just to mention as well, they had the unsung hero in this team, Rino Gattuso. I mean, he done all the dirty work. He's the engine. He runs all over the place. I mean, he was just kicking people left, right, and centre during this game, which we'll probably get into.
Sorry, I missed Gattuso. Yeah, Gattuso's in there.
And then you've got John Dal Thomason, which is just completely weird because you've got Filippo Inzaghi and Hernan Crespo to partner Shevchenko, and you go with arguably your weakest striker out of the four. It was just weird. I mean, they did come off a game against PSV Eindhoven in the Champions League semi-final, which they were really, really lucky to actually go through to the final. You know, PSV were a better team in that game. But I don't think they could really get away with the excuse of, oh, Crespo and Inzaghi were both tired because Shevchenko was the main man and he was starting all the games. Yet, he is starting against Juventus.
Yeah. It's it was just strange to me in the title race there with, again, the talent. Didn't you mention Crespo there as well? But we'll take it, and then we'll get to Juve's lineup. Gigi Buffon, of course, Pesotto with Thuram, Cannavaro and Zambrotta. Solid at the back, very, very solid. In the middle, Camoranesi, Appia, Emerson, and Nedved. Del Piero and Trezeguet up top. Solid. And I almost forgot about Appia there. And this was a fun watch with Appia and whatnot. Emerson I was never too fond of. And it was kind of, Emerson and Appia give you... We almost had that exact same two in the middle. They play like the exact same style of game. I prefer Appia over Emerson. He seems to have a little bit more of an engine to him. But other than that, our lineup, I loved our lineup. Your thoughts on our lineup in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty rock solid and it looks really good on paper. Similar to yourself, I was never a fan of Emerson. I always thought he was a bit too slow.
Yeah.
And I thought Appia was better. And, you picked up on it there. Capello had a weird fixation when it came to central midfielders. Emerson, Appia, very similar type of players. The following season, Emerson, Patrick Vieira, again.
Yeah.
Similar players. And it's like they just kind of got in each other's way and cancel each other out. I mean, when you look at the Milan team, you've got Gattuso, who does all like the defensive work and runs all over the place, and Pirlo in front of him or beside him doing all the playmaking. That's what you want. You don't want two of the same type of players right beside each other.
Yeah, it was really it was weird. So we'd have to essentially play through the outsides with Camoranesi and Nedved. Throughout this match, Nedved switched a lot and started to move just ahead of, almost like they created a three-man midfield with Camoranesi, Appia, and Emerson, and Nedved would slide forward a lot to try and support Trez and Del Piero. But it's strange to see two guys like that, and it was like that for quite a few seasons. Because then, you mentioned it, then Vieira comes along, but. It was just interesting. And when you look at the benches, you were hoping that Juve would get this thing sealed up with their starters because Milan seemed way more equipped when it came to the benches on this one. Juve had their bench, Chimenti, Montero, Birindelli, Blasi, Oliveira, Zalieta, right? So Zalieta could offer you some. I think he did make an appearance later on in this one, I believe. But not too shabby, don't get me wrong. But when you look at Milan, with Rui Costa, Crespo, Serginho, Inzaghi, Costa Curta, Abbiat, Ambrosini, just a much stronger bench.
Yeah.
So you're hoping Juve gets this thing sealed up, right?
Yeah.
And this particular Juve kit, I loved. I love this Juve kit. Your thoughts on this one?
I'm very annoyed that I don't have it with me. It's elsewhere, along with most of my collection right now. Otherwise, I would have worn it. But I've got a lot of sentimental value towards it because, back in 2004, I was roughly 17, 16 years old. And, I started working for the first time, so I was actually having money to spend, and I just spent the lot on all three kits. So that was my first kit that I was actually able to buy for myself, like just go into the shop and buy it.
Yeah.
So, I still love it, and I've got the exact same shirt. I mean, the sponsors are a little worn because I wore that thing every single match day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, everybody remembers their first, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome, man. This was, yeah, I love this kit. The sky logo on it. Was that the first season with that badge as well?
Yeah, that was when they rebranded it, and
Yeah,
I absolutely loved that. I mean, I've got the old one from
yeah,
2002 on right now. It's kind of crazy to sit here and think to myself, I've been a fan for so long that Juventus have had three different badges.
yeah. I know.
It's just, I thought that one would have lasted a very, very long time, but the rebrand.
Yeah, it's times were a change and nobody really saw that coming, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. It's cool to look at these old kits and the logos and everything. It's cool to reminisce. So in this match, yeah, we built it up. You've got two teams deadlocked for a while. This is going to be a big decider. I think this was match week 35, if I'm correct.
Roughly, there was three more games after this,
Yeah,
and when you looked at them on paper, you thought to yourself, Milan and Juventus are both going to win every single one of those. And there was actual real talk about, I think if all these games ended and we were similar, we were the exact same points, we would have ended with a playoff. I'm pretty sure. I heard that in the commentary, but
yeah.
it just tells you everything about this title race. It was just so tight right down to it.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. It was, yeah, it's just so much intensity with this, and obviously the team's histories and whatnot in this title race being deadlocked. There's only three matches afterwards. Big match, packed San Siro. Let's get into it. A couple minutes into it, the ball itself can't handle it. Right,
Yeah.
explodes. So they have to get a new one brought in here. Both teams just kind of taking turns owning possession. Juve a little slower getting into this one. Milan seemed to have a little bit more jump off the hop, which you'd probably expect being at home. Yeah, we kind of go back and forth, taking turns with possession. Both teams, as we touched on, have incredible backlines. Both completely able to lock things down. That seemed to be what was happening. You could only get so far before the other team completely just shuts it down, cuts it off, and then they start possessing the ball and doing their build-up. So they went back and forth like this for quite some time. No real chances. 25 minutes in, still neither team really taking this match over as far as possession goes. Both teams getting to the final third, defense is shutting things down. 28th minute. Juve works the ball up the wing really quickly, nicely. Del Piero finds himself 1v1. Tried to beat his man with a cross. It gets blocked. I believe he was with Nesta at that time. And then, out of nowhere, he completely posterizes Nesta, as I don't think anybody saw this thing coming. And he bikes this thing over. And Trezeguet's just on it, and the defense had completely stopped and flat-footed. Like Del Piero just kind of flat-footed everybody with this bike, but Trezeguet locked in with ADP there, and he heads her home, and Juve takes the 1-0 lead. You still see the images, and I've had these images pop up on posts on Twitter and everything when we're talking about classic celebrations, and you've got Del Piero with his arms out and Trezeguet running out to him to sully this goal. You've got the photos of the bike with Nesta in behind Del Piero just watching. Just epic goal. Talk about your thoughts of this. Do you remember where you were when you originally watched this match?
Yep, I was in my bedroom watching it on the television, and like I said earlier on, it was the first time I got my first job and everything, so I was able to have satellite television in my own room. Because
Nice.
previously, before that, I couldn't regularly watch games. It was like a game here, a game there, because it was a case of I would have to go downstairs and ask my grandparents, can I watch the game tonight? And depending on what was on the television, I mean, the amount of Juventus games I missed because of some silly TV soap opera on so this season I was able to watch Juventus regularly, and because it was such a tight title race, the TV channel was showing Milan and Juventus games on a weekly basis. So I remember that. It was brilliant. I also remember, though, this wasn't the greatest season for Del Piero because Capello, I don't know what it was. Capello just didn't like him. He kept putting him on the bench. He never really explained it. It was Ibrahimovic and Trezeguet were the main two. So Del Piero, he probably wouldn't have got started if Ibrahimovic wasn't suspended. So that was a blessing in disguise. And Del Piero went out with a point to prove. And I think that's where he maybe just got the idea of improvising, because the Milan backline, everyone stops and they look at Del Piero as if he's going to hold the ball up. He's just going to wait for the ball to drop, hold it up, wait for more Juventus players to get in the box. But instead he decides, I'm going to attempt this overhead kick. I'm going to flick it into the box and hopefully someone's there like Trezeguet. And it just so happens Trezeguet is the only man in that box that's alert enough to attack it. Yeah. And Dida gets like a fingertip to it.
Yeah, he gets tips to
it. It's not enough and it goes in. And I think that was why the celebration was just even more passionate from Del Piero's point of view, because he's been frustrated for the entire season, and he pulls something like this off. It's an important goal, and he's created it, and he has to be acknowledged for it. It's kind of his moment where he goes, I am good enough to start, you will start me.
Yeah, and it's good that you touch on that, because Capello, it was just frustrating. I mean, yeah, he had such a solid team, and so many Juventini just feel like those years were kind of wasted. We could have got a lot more out of what we had. And yeah, the way, this lack of belief in Del Piero, of all people, was shocking, Yeah. This was Ibrahimovic's first year with Juve, I believe, as well. I think he had just transferred in this particular season. He did lead us in goals in all competitions, but Del Piero, I think, was still not too far behind him.
Yeah.
So I think Ibrahimovic led us... Yeah, did he lead us in Serie A with 17? But Del Piero led us in all competitions. It was something like that. Like, they were really, really close, despite, the fact that we talked about Capello not having this belief in Del Piero, right? But I'm just going to dig it up here just to make sure, because I know that's kind of the way it was. But yeah, so sorry. Del Piero was our leader for all competitions with 17 total. And Zlatan was our Serie A leader with 16. And that was Zlatan's first year with us. And he came to us, scoring goals here and there, but that was a big, big breakout season for Zlatan.
I mean, just to point out to younger watchers and listeners, we're talking about a game from 2004. This isn't Ibrahimovic when he was, pulling off spectacular goals on a regular basis and a regular goal scorer. I mean, he must have been in his early 20s, so he was far from the finished article. And he arrived from Ajax, and he was a known player, but it wasn't like, Ibra, this is a world-class player we've got in our hands. And he would frustrate me. So his debut season was his best season for Juventus. He was only with us for 2 seasons, but his debut season was his best. But so many times when it was the big games, like I specifically remember this season, we played Real Madrid in the second leg, and we created so many chances, and so many chances fell to Ibrahimovic, and he would just snatch at them. He would just blast it over the bar. He would fail to hit the target, and you're just watching this, and you just think, just hit the target, just create something, and then he would get substituted off.
Yeah.
But
and then I mean, he was just getting started in his career, even before he came to us from Ajax. again, like I said, he wasn't scoring a bunch there, right? Nobody really saw, a 16 goal Serie, especially Serie A back then. It was a stacked league. So nobody really saw that coming. But yeah, there's Ibra, not the Ibra that became, but and then we all know, a couple seasons later, he took off as a lot of guys did. But that's some cool other scenarios surrounding this match and this season and everything. But so Juve's up 1-0. We keep going on here. A lot of battles all over the field. We talked about both starting lineups and some beauties out there. Camoranesi going against Nesta quite a bit. Nesta ended up hauling Camoranesi down after this one, after Camoranesi stripped him of the ball. I remember thinking to myself, like, how does Nesta not get a card on that? It just, like, this was a really, really chippy game. It was a chippy match. I mean, well, granted, you've got Appia, Emerson, and Gattuso running around in the middle. All three of those guys are, like, hard-nosed players, and there's fouls left, right, and center. But then you factor in a guy like Camoranesi. He's not shying away from anything. Nedved himself is always in the thick of things. I felt in this match he had a little tough time getting into the rhythm. And we talked about just that setup. He, for the most part, was lined up on the outside. He would slide just ahead of our mid from time to time, but I felt he was struggling to get into this one. But so was Pirlo for Milan. Milan started to squeeze after going down a goal, but Juve seemed to hold them down comfortably. Guys like Camoranesi in possession was huge. Zambrotta had an incredible match. Him and Cafu battling on that flank was incredible to watch. Two of the best, I think, at that time. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, this was a chippy match. The halftime goes off, and just thinking it's kind of going exactly how, I thought it would be back then with two lockdown teams. It was going to take something like that magic we saw from ADP, but that's kind of the first half. Really, really chippy one. The talented players not having a lot of room to work with at all. But I remember Nedved not seeming to get too much into rhythm. Trezeguet was, that's the guy that needs service, and it's tough to get him that, with Milan's setup. But same for Milan, though. I mean, Shevchenko was getting absolutely nothing. And Thomason was invisible, which we kind of thought, here's a surprise. But other than that, anything you picked up on in that first half?
Well, being a title decider, it was to be expected. It was going to be really tight. Neither side, both sides know they can't afford to lose this. So maybe a point wouldn't be the worst case scenario. So they were both more focused on preventing the other team scoring. So they were both, for the most part, solid in defence. I mean, I don't remember that many clear-cut chances being created.
Yeah.
It was mainly chances from outside the box, and it was nothing fancy or technical. This was not a good game for your technically gifted players. It was more a game where you're just like, you're just going to kick everything in sight and run up the pitch and hope for the best. And what I noticed was, for the duration of the entire game, most chances for both sides were coming from wide, like just across into the box.
Yeah.
Like, you never really saw good passing play to pass away inside to the box and get a close range effort.
Yeah.
It always came out from wide.
Yeah, and this was, for the newer fans, I mean, you see it a lot from us on Twitter, social media, when we play these matches against Milan, even Roma or whatnot, and we say it doesn't matter how, you just have to get it done. And that's because that was the way it was historically, and this is a prime example of it. Just, you're your tactics, all that just kind of goes out the window. And this turned into a scrap pretty much on the field. Like, that's what it felt like. It was a scrap. Yeah, it was just the way it was back in the day. You've got so much talent on the pitch, and they're canceling each other out, especially at the back lines, because those are probably the two best back lines back then. Merida had a pretty good one too, but these had to be the best. And I mean, again, if you look at the names out there, like Nesta, Maldini, you had Cannavaro, Thuram there, Zambrota. It's crazy. It's crazy to think back, right? And for the newer fans, even the guys that were unsung that could step out from the bench, Birandelli, Pesotto, like stuff like that. Like, it's not nowadays when we get DeCilio coming on. Like the guys that were. This is one of the things I noticed too. We'll get into in the second half. I always had that belief back then watching Juve then, that any guy that comes off that bench, granted, I said Milan was really stacked for what they had coming off the bench, but we had all these guys that weren't flash, but would just go out there and do their job and just keep that standard up. The standard never changed with who we had on the pitch. Like, that was one of the things that stood out to me in comparison now, the amount of guys we have, and utility, like you could deploy a guy kind of in so many different positions back then, but the standard always remained. Did you get that feeling back then? Like, I know you have been like myself, and we've been watching a lot of classics during this time. But yeah, did you get that feeling as well?
I always got the impression that even if Juventus had a bad game, they were going to get the job done. I mean, I would watch Milan and Juventus back then, because if Juventus played first and won a game, I wanted to watch Milan and cross my fingers they would drop points. Yeah. And both teams rarely done that. But Juventus were more efficient. Juventus were, because of the manager, who, as you can tell, I did not like at all. He was more focused on structure, defence. And I think part of that was because the previous season, the 03-04 season, Juventus were a shambles in defence. I'll tell you who was a regular centre-back, Legratagli.
Yeah.
That tells you everything. So we were leaking goals left, right and centre. So I think the original idea was bring Capello in and get us defensively solid. So, I mean, if you look at the Champions League results back then, every game that we won in the group stage was 1-0.
Yeah.
It was just 1-0, 1-0. I think we had 5 wins, 1-0, and 1 draw, which was 1-1, I think. But the group was already won by then. So that tells you everything you need to know about Capello. And Milan were the opposite. Milan would be more free-flowing football, more attacking football, just with the players that they had. They had Shevchenko up front, who's just lethal. You had Kaká, who was in his second season. He was really coming into his own.
Yeah.
But you never knew what you were going to get with them. But with Juventus, you always thought, we'll scrap it, we'll win 1-0, or we'll get a late goal or something.
Yeah.
So I was always confident we were going to win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just... Yeah, that was our style, right? Just we'd do whatever it took, we'd grind it out, but it was just results, right? May sound very, very familiar to the younger fans, but that's historically what Juve has been about. We get to the second half here. Pirlo subbed off, Serginho coming on, but Pirlo was having a bit of a shocker. We talked about guys not being able to get into rhythm of this match. He was one of them. Many misplaced passes, and the physicality I don't think he was equipped for. He was getting run roughshod over like throughout this one. But were you still surprised, even though he was having a bit of a shocker, that they took Pirlo off? Yeah,
because I always saw him as their best midfielder. Like, for years and years, I was dying for him to play for Juventus. That was just like, whenever you got the old FIFA games, every single FIFA game, I'd be like, I'm signing Pirlo. I want Pirlo in my midfield. I don't care how much it costs. I'm getting him in my midfield.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing to see him going off. But, like you say, we touched on that type of player. This game just wasn't suited for them. And he had a few moments. He would get a cross in for Shevchenko or whoever was near the Juventus penalty area. And he would create chances, but they weren't clear-cut. But, there was nothing else he could really do. He was never known for, getting dirty and tackling and tracking back or anything like that. So I think Ancelotti realised he was losing the midfield battle, and he thought, I need to take Pirlo off.
Yeah. It's just, he was struggling, and we talked about it. You've already got Appiah, Emerson in the heart of the midfield for Juve. Both play physical game. They're the same type of midfielder. But Camoranesi and Nedved also offering that hard-nosed tackling. Like, Pirlo just couldn't breathe. He couldn't breathe. So to expect a lot out of him, it wasn't. And that's why I didn't really know what necessarily Serginho was going to offer that Pirlo couldn't really. So it was just almost like, would you not want to maybe... I thought for sure the change would have had to be Thomason to get somebody more that requires more attention up front there with Shevchenko to work off of them and maybe offer a little bit more breathing room for the midfield. It seemed like a one-off. I was just like, I don't really know what the change is going to be. Again, though, if Milan's going to take Pirlo off at the start of the second half, we take it all day and we move forward, right? So Milan starts off the second half just really coming at Juve. They're throwing crosses in left, right, and center. Just everything's going into the box. Zambrotta, we talked about earlier, him and battling Cafu. That was essentially a lot of the second half. It was just those two going at it. I remember the one play Zambrotta, and this was how I remembered Zambrotta with Juve. It's just, not only Zambrotta, when we talk about the standard and everybody that would play as a substitute, anything, it was like, get your job done at all costs, and you had this play that stuck out to me, and I started laughing as I saw it, because Cafu, he gets a step to Zambrotta, he beats him, Zambrotta slips, Cafu tries to go over him, and Zambrotta does everything he can to get up, and Cafu's like on his back, and he gets up to make sure that Cafu's essentially riding Zambrotta this time, and Zambrotta takes him down. Obviously you get the foul and everything, but it was just like, that's what Juve was about. Like, you would not get by them and they would just surrender. It was like, no, like, I'm going to make sure if you get by me, I'm taking you down. We'll deal with the free kick or whatever. But I see this sequence and I'm just like, my God, that's exactly how I remembered Zambrotta, just a workhorse. And everybody else for that matter too, just doing whatever it took to get the job done. Do you remember that sequence? It seemed funny to me at the time, because it was just like, he had no other play, and I'm like, oh, he's just gonna, he essentially just made him ride his back and just tossed him to the ground, and I was laughing.
That's what you call a strategic foul.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, because when the referee gives a foul, if he's thinking about booking you, all you have to do is look up and go, well, what the hell do you want me to do? I'm getting up. Yeah. I didn't grab him, I didn't pull him, I didn't kick him. I'm literally getting up off the ground, and this guy decided he was going to climb over me. Book him.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be a yellow card or anything like that. But I think Zambrotta was booked at this point, so he had to be a little more careful. But you can't argue with it. It was hilarious to see, and it was so clever.
Yeah, you have Cafu about to run into our area, because this was down the right flank for Milan, probably about 4 or 5 feet away from the area. So you're going to have him starting to run in. Camoranesi, I think, backtracking into that space. Zambrotta, by all means, he took it. They got the free kick, and we dealt with it and survived. But it's just one of those moments that That's how I remembered Zambrotta and many Juve players, just whatever it took. Inzaghi. Inzaghi comes in at the 55th minute. And there's the guy that we were like, kind of surprised not to see him start the match. Or especially come in at half when Thomason was completely invisible. But here he comes in, and my God, it was almost instantly that he gets an opportunity. He gets clear in on Buffon, who comes out, challenges. This ball ricochets off Buffon, and this is how I remember Inzaghi too. The ball's just like, it doesn't matter, ricochet, whatever, like, it just seems like it's always at his feet, like it's always there for him. And that's how I remember Inzaghi. Just very opportune striker, but always just there. That's how I could explain Inzaghi. He's just there. And credit to him. That was a style, like he knew where to be, he knew how to get there, but he got this ball just ricocheted, stayed there. But then I remember Zambrotta just doing everything it took and making sure Inzaghi could not put this thing home, and he essentially ran himself and Inzaghi into the post. And yeah, it was just like, oh my God, like close call. But when you see Inzaghi making an impact almost instantly, you got to think Milan really dropped the ball there, do you remember that play where they ran themselves into the post there? And is that not just Inzaghi though? The ball just falling to him all the time and just him just being there? Like, that's the only way I could really explain Inzaghi.
Inzaghi is still the weirdest player I've ever seen. It's like he's got little to no technical ability. He rarely dribbles. Like, when you see him dribbling, it's sort of like watching Matuidi dribble. You're like, this guy's a world-class striker. I don't see it. And then suddenly, he'll just appear out of nowhere and put it in the net. And you're like, how'd that happen? And he would do it again and again and again. And you're like, all right, that's why he plays.
Yeah.
But that's what a striker does. A striker's paid to score goals, so you can't really complain. But it's just when you see him on the pitch, it's like he doesn't do much, and then all of a sudden he'll score. You're like, oh, that's Pippo Inzaghi. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was I'm sure I've seen a quote from years ago from Alex Ferguson, the former Manchester United manager, and I'm sure he said something along the lines of, Inzaghi was born offside, or something like that. And it's just because it just appears out of nowhere, and you're like, he must have been offside. There's no way he could have been there at the right time, the right place, but 9 times out of 10 he was, and he was for this one, and thank God for Buffon. And we've mentioned Zambrotta quite a few times. In my mind, Zambrotta is still the best Juventus fullback that I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was so good going forward, and he was so good defensively. It was your complete fullback. That's what you want.
Yeah, Zambrotta was he was my father and myself. He was our favorite, one of our favorite Juve players, hands down. It was crazy, and for those newer fans, go back and watch some of these classics, and Zambrotta will stick out like a sore thumb. Like, it's unbelievable, the talent the guy had. And we talked about it too, not only the talent, the ability, but the work rate. And the guy could take a hit, left foot, right foot, like he was complete. And like we said, a guy, utility, you talk about utility. The guy would go into a midfield position. He would play at fullback. He would swap sides whenever required. It was endless with Zambrotta, and it's hard for a guy like that much versatility, that much talent and ability, to not just, to not have that sentiment for him in regards for him as a player. But yeah, probably I'd have to agree with you. He's probably
the best way I could describe Zambrotta for younger fans, think of Dani Alves, but he could defend.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, pretty much. And not just defend, but to like the highest standard. Incredible. And we talk about it too. A guy that shouldn't require introduction, but Cafu, to lock horns with him for a full 90 and essentially leave him to nothing is incredible on its own, right? Cafu's one of the best ever as well. So this was really, really cool to watch from that. We talked about those battles. That's one of them. Very, very enjoyable. So then we carry on. We talk about Inzaghi again there immediately. And then play gets stopped as Camoranesi seems to be injured on this particular sequence. He gets helped off the pitch there. Was he substituted as well?
Yeah. It took a little while, but we played with 10 men for a couple of minutes, which Milan fully took advantage of.
Oh yeah.
They didn't score, but they weren't gonna kick the ball at a play and go, make a substitute and it'll be 11v11. They were like, no, it's gonna be 11v10, and we're giving you no chances right now. So Camoranesi went off, and Birondelli came on.
Yeah. Birondelli, and we talked about him. I mentioned him earlier. Another guy that will do whatever it takes at all costs. Birondelli was, no flash there, but again, just a guy that would get the job done. So Birondelli comes on. Milan again. They're just throwing a lot at Juve as far as crosses and whatnot, but it's just Juve's handling it well. I seem to remember a chance with Cannavaro actually, Juve coming back at them. It would take a lot of build-up and possession. So Juve would defend. They would accept wave after wave. They'd get possession with key guys that were drawing fouls. Del Piero, I lost count of how many times this guy got fouled with the ball at feet. Nedved was getting fouled. Camoranesi was one of those guys. We would get the ball into possession with those guys. They would draw fouls. They would offer Juve some breathing room. And then we would take that possession and kind of try to create something up. We did end up getting this corner. Cannavaro gets to it. He directs it on goal, but it's just right at Dida. Dida was just massive. That guy was so damn tall. It was crazy watching him, but his wingspan, I just remember seeing that and I'm like, my God, Cannavaro, that's normally a great header. But it just seemed to be just swallowed up by Dida. He's just massive. Other than that, Juve not getting a whole bunch. It's really Milan controlling possession and play. But again, we just canceling them out strong at the back. And this is how it was back in the day when the top teams clashed in Serie A. You weren't expecting a goal bonanza, right? It was going to be a battle, scrappy battle, defensive. 76th minute, we do get a good chance. Nedved, Appia, and Zalieta, who did come in for Trezeguet. Trezeguet got subbed in. They all link up on this play, and Nedved ends up taking a really good rip from the top of the area that just missed. Far post. Really, really nice build-up, and some moments throughout the second half where Appia really stood out to me, and I don't really know what happened there. Appia was a really solid, I thought as the game went on and as Milan was pressing, I was just like, man, Appia he was solid midfielder, and my God, he was. I would prefer him every day over Emerson. It's an easy call for me watching this game. But your thoughts on Appia?
I think he was at Juventus for 2 seasons, and I think he arrived from possibly Parma, maybe. And I thought he was a good midfielder. Before all of this current situation happened, I always thought he must have been rubbish, and that's why we sold him and replaced him with Patrick Vieira in 2005.
Yeah.
And then I'm going back and I'm watching these old games, and I'm like, he's really good. He's basically he's sort of like our version of Gattuso.
Yeah, I know.
And he breaks up play and he sticks the tackles in, and he's really good for doing all the defensive work. And I'm like, why did we get rid of him?
I know. I I'm watching these classics too, and I'm thinking like Appia, okay, like I'm expecting to watch a bit of a gong show, but no, I just like these matches. I'm just like, man, great engine, hard nosed tackler, very very simple with the ball, just getting it to the key guys. This guy's great. I'm just like, it's surprising to me.
And
And
just as frustratingly, he was in his mid-20s, and we've got Emerson who's
yeah,
approaching 30 or in his 30s, and then the following year we replace him with Patrick Vieira who's also 30. So
yeah,
why the hell do you do that?
yeah, and Emerson, he was in comparison just seems so clunky, like just I don't know. It's hard to I can't really think to explain Emerson right now, but slow is one of them.
Yeah.
Pace wasn't there and whatnot. Vieira, yeah, again, we talked about these guys same style or whatnot, but Vieira just a whole nother level and actually much more technical ability there in distribution. So he was a gain there. But yeah, Emerson was always the one that I was like, man, it would be a no-brainer to me that Emerson would be the guy gone, and let's hang on to Appia. But yeah,
But I think the key part was Capello brought him from Roma
yeah.
along with Zabina. He brought his own guys. So, Zabina would have started this.
What's that?
Zabina would have started this game if he wasn't injured. And Emerson and Zabina were going to start every game because Capello brought them with him from Roma.
Zabina, that name just still makes me cringe, man.
He looks so out of place when you look back at the lineups from that era. You're looking at it and you're going Ibrahimovic, you've got Del Piero, Buffon, Cannavaro, Thuram, and there's Zabina.
Yeah, I just watching the guy too, like he just, oh my god, man, I don't even want to get into it, but I named him as one of my least favorite Juve players of all time. Like Zabina's in there for me. Like he just, if there was a way to ruin a match, he'd like. Yeah. And Luis on my last fan focus video put it. That's exactly how he meant it. He goes, if there was a way to ruin a game, Zabina would be the guy that would find how to do that.
I mean, if people think Khedira's hated, if Twitter was around in 2004, I guarantee you Zabina would get more hate than Khedira does.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And you know what? That's so funny to try and think about that. Like, guys, how people would react to the matches back then, these classics on Twitter. And, oh my God, man. Yeah, that guy would be just blasted. All the time. That's funny. We move on to the game. So we talk about Trezeguet being substituted. Zalieta ended up coming in. We get that opportunity from Nedved. We move forward. Milan starts to squeeze down a little harder. And I remember Cannavaro making this huge block at the top of the area. His arm was up. Ball did strike it. Colina, we didn't even talk about the ref here. Colina, though, I remember him vividly. Who doesn't? A very scary looking man. I just remember looking like I just.
It was the eyes.
What's that?
It was the eyes.
Oh yeah,
his eyes would go like anytime a player argued with him, his eyes would bulge, and they would just stop arguing with him.
He looked on his last leg like I was like, is this guy alive or is he like just like is he in his past life right now, like refereeing, like is he dead? He's such a just crazy looking guy. But Colina doesn't call this one. Obviously Milan lobbying and very very hard. I actually was getting frustrated with Shevchenko, the amount of complaining he did. He just spent more time in this match complaining than he did trying to establish Milan's attack there or whatnot. But yeah, big intervention there by Cannavaro. Appia ends up getting substituted moments later. Blasi ends up coming in for Juve. We have another Inzaghi moment going in very, very hard. And Thuram also meeting him simultaneously at this 50-50 with Buffon, who actually comes out and gets it. Very, very close call, though. Again, Inzaghi just getting in, creating a lot of issues there. Buffon was so sharp, coming out on everything he absolutely had to. And, you know, we've seen Buffon for so long, but when you go back and I mean, it's crazy to think we're in 2020 and we're recapping matches. You know, I was watching classics from '02 and whatnot, and it's crazy to think that this guy is, you know, our backup right now and still playing at an incredible level. But when you watch this match, the movements, the reading of the game and everything, like, he was just absolutely incredible. And this is not by any means back in the day one of his best, but it's crazy to see, like, just when the legs were there and the jump was there, he was like
Best
insane.
in the world.
Yeah, he's insane. Best in the world, in my mind, without a doubt, hands down. But yeah, anything they could try and muster between Thuram, Cannavaro, Zambrotta, even Pesotto there for a while, Buffon, they would just swallow it up. We get about 94th minute there, scramble, Juve's goal. Again, Buffon out, he gets it, and his reaction is just everything, and it's exactly how I will always remember Buffon. But the fist pumping, the yelling, the direction to the club defensively and everything with the ball in his hand, and I got goosebumps at that point. Like, it was just like, holy shit, you know, it's just, I see this guy, I've seen this guy for so long, whatever, and even back then, you know, you don't know what you had at that point, you know, like, you knew you had such an incredible goalkeeper and he was, you know, up there, but looking back at it now, it gave me goosebumps. It was awesome. You know, I think of all those moments came up when I saw that in this one with him, the ball in his hand and the fist pumping and the yelling, and I was just like, boom, flashback in this highlight reel, like, just all these moments, him fist bumping Chiellini, the BBC, BBBBC or whatever. Yeah, it was awesome. And the match finished off, the whistle blows, Juve holds on, and you could see in the celebration that was pretty much your title decider at that point.
But just to touch on what you were saying about Buffon, like, I'm so attached to that player, like, it's unreal. Like, going back and watching these games, like, you know, just before this, I mean, I was in high school when Buffon was playing for Juventus. So I grew up in high school watching Juventus with Buffon, and I've been watching Juventus with Buffon ever since. And I'm 32. I'm 32 years old, and he's still the same goalkeeper when I was like 14. Yeah, it's just it's mind blowing.
It is mind blowing. It's crazy, and you know, the way the game's changed and whatnot, you'll never see that. I don't think you will never see a guy like that. And we know obviously the season with PSG and whatnot, and him going there and whatnot. But I mean, that's why I can't buy into the people that made it anything else than what it should have been, which is us happy that he's coming back to finish with us. Like,
I was delighted.
He should be finishing with us. You'll never see a player with that amount of time with a club. It's just it's crazy, and all the moments that he's given us nationally and with Juve, it's just it's crazy. But yeah, the attachment, it's unbelievable.
I mean, I got so choked up when his fight. Well, obviously it wasn't his final game, but you know what I'm talking about. It was supposed to be his final game for Juventus. Yeah. The big send off, and you know, he's walking around and he's applauding the crowd, and I literally I literally stood up in my living room and just watched when he came off as a substitute, and the guard of honour, and I got a little choked up watching that.
Yeah, I mean,
And I don't get choked up for anything really.
I was sitting there with my dad watching the match, and I can't remember. I don't think ever my dad and myself actually being silent throughout anything of a match, but we actually just like watched and just didn't even really say anything, and I think the part that really got me was the embrace with Marquisio, and Marquisio like almost like digging his damn fingers into his back, almost like not wanting to believe, that was it. And I think Marquisio was essentially all of us in that moment.
Exactly.
And it was crazy, it's like it's coming, but you can't prepare. And if you've been, Buffon he's been a symbol of Juve for so long, but even if you look at newer fans, for just his accomplishments and his ability lets you latch onto him. The talent, the ability, even in these later stages of his career, newer fans are latching onto that, and then just his presence, they latch onto that. But then when you factor in, the guys that have been there since, the early 2000s and watched the entire thing unfold, it's just, you can't even put words to having to watch that farewell, right? And then now we have to do it all over again at some point.
Oh, fantastic.
But this was a cool, very, very cool classic match to recap with Milan there. Talked about these lineups, these old players, whatnot, and it was really cool, and I highly recommend for any fans, get back, watch some classics. I want to do more of these. Obviously, we're without football. I'm going nuts, so these classics, I'm living off them. But reach out to me on Twitter. Let's pick some matches. There's already a couple lined up here, but if you want to recap one, I'd love to do it. Let's leave off with some fun questions. There's a lot of fun questions going around. I just want to ask you one. It's name the player that made you fall in love with the game. Because this may not necessarily be a Juventino, but who's the one player that drew you into football, made you fall in love with it?
That's such a tough one for me. It's either Ali McCoist for Glasgow Rangers, because my granddad, my dad, they were all Rangers fans, and he eventually became the all-time top goal scorer. He was Scottish, and he was basically their main man for so long. So I'm kind of being pushed in that direction where it's like, okay, this is the team we support, this is the team you're going to support. So I latched onto that player, but soon afterwards I saw a Juventus shirt and I saw Del Piero on the back, and as a kid I'm like, Juventus, that sounds cool. Del Piero, that sounds cooler than McCoist. Yeah, I quite like this guy. And then when I saw Del Piero play, and obviously, I'm not going to I suppose it is a bit of a disrespect to Scottish football, but Scottish football's kind of crap anyway, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then when I was playing, I'm like, what is this? This is so much better than what I've been made to watch. And I just stuck with Del Piero and I stuck with Juventus. And anytime I get asked, who's your all-time favourite player, immediately I go, Del Piero. And if anyone says to me, oh, but this player's better, or oh, Messi's so much better, or Ronaldo's so much better, I'm like, I don't care. Del Piero.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
It's got to be Del Piero. Like, he just, as soon as I discovered him, that was it. That was me, Juventus fan from then on, no matter what.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for me, I mean, it was Baggio, because just my dad going nuts with it, and I was just kind of getting into watching them because it was crazy hours and I was still young. So over here it was wild times that my dad would watch the matches. But at that point, VHS for all the I know I'm dating myself, but my dad would record them all on VHS, and sometimes I'd do the playback and stuff, and he still has all those VHS tapes. We're talking full seasons of Juve, like through mid 90s mid 90s to, oh my god, I think he's got full 90 sets. But it's wild the amount of matches he has on these VHS tapes, and it literally takes this whole wall in his basement. Like I'll get a couple snapshots. It's crazy, but yeah, Baggio would start it for me. But then Del Piero originally ended up solidifying it, where I was locked in. This is it, and then it's like that was it, and Del Piero was my guy. So yeah, Baggio kind of started it for me. So I would say he was like the first, but I don't know if you would call that love at that point for the game. But then Del Piero just kind of like boom, he locked it in for me. So yeah, that's awesome. Man, that's pretty much it. Thanks for recapping this classic. It's been awesome and a very, very welcoming distraction with what's going on. And I can't stress enough to everybody just to continue staying safe and being smart, practice all the safe practices that we can, the social distancing, for people that aren't in lockdown, just believe it or not, a Merida player, Ashley Young, actually put out a really good thread on Twitter on just some very, very good safe practices and just being smart through this situation. People really need to go and read that. Yeah, read up on it. I mean, he's at the epicenter of the actual virus, so just it's a good read, and everybody, we all need to band together to make it through. I believe we will. And it's very hard at this time, but this is why we try to offer these distractions. Everybody's got to stay as positive as can be, I myself have battled with anxiety in my life, and I can tell you the biggest thing is sometimes just reaching out and talking. And I've said it on Twitter, and if anybody needs to, you can message me there and reach out. I'll be more than willing to help in any way I can. But we will make it through. All the people making content and trying to help out, I know sometimes it goes both ways, and some people are like, how can you talk about this stuff at this time and whatnot? But honestly, the distractions are good. It helps you, just give you a relief, a release from the stress, anxiety. If you consume yourself in what's going on, it's going to take over. Try to have fun where you can, be smart, isolation, social distancing, just have fun with it. If you're in your household with family, like, use that time, right? I know I live a very busy life with work and everything, and I'm just making the most of the time at home with the wife and daughter. So just, let's all do our part. Let's help each other, reach out if somebody needs to talk, help them through elderly, the ones that are able. Maybe we start, trying to help and picking items up for them, supplies, and just reach out. Let's all help each other. As much as, this can bring out the worst in people, it actually brings out the best in a lot. And I like to focus on that because I've seen a lot of people doing a lot of really, really good things. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll be coming at you with another classic recap. That's going to be the 2003 Real Madrid second leg. And that's going to be a beauty. There's a lot of beauty, a lot of classics to run by. Graeme, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come on. It's been a very welcome distraction from the outside world. It's been great to focus on something other than what's going on right now. Yeah. So I highly recommend this to any fan that, they just want to get away from everything that's going on for even an hour or two.
Yeah.
It's really good. And I just want to say to everyone, stay safe and be well, and just follow the guidelines, what you're being told, that you're being told them for a reason, and you'll get through this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well put. And as always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. It will be back at some point. We don't know when, but luckily they've provided us with a plethora of beautiful matches like this one to recap. Thanks everybody for listening. Take care. See you soon.